Okay. Welcome, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Maria Azrad, Webinar Coordinator for the Research Dietetic Practice Group and the host for today's webinar. This webinar is approved by the Academy and the CDR for 1 CPEU. All registered attendees will be emailed a link to download the CPE certificate and PDF of the slides. We are attempting to do this in as timely as timely as possible. Please bear with us. We will get you your CPEU certificate. It will be posted to the RDPG website as well as the Academy. Everyone is working from home currently, and so things are moving just a little bit slow, but please be patient. The URL to access the closed caption is going to be in the chat box. When you click on it, a new window will open and the captions of the presentation for those with a hearing loss or with difficulty hearing or understanding any of the speakers, you will be able to access the closed caption. Unfortunately, WebEx does not allow for captions to appear in the same window with the slides, so you can't see the captions in the slides at the same time. Captions can be accessed on a smartphone, tablet, or computer, so you could read the captions on one of those while you view the slides on another device. Also, a transcript of the entire webinar will be available along with all of the PDF slides and so we'll have the slides, we will have the actual webinar, we'll have the transcript, and the CEU certificates will all be posted to the websites. Again, just please be patient and give us a little bit of time to get that done. We're all sort of working without a lot of technical assistance at this time. To ask a question at any time during the webinar, please use your chat box. These questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. So now I am going to turn over the presentation to our moderator, Neva Cochran. Neva?
Thanks, Maria. Hello, everyone. I'm Neva Cochran, a registered dietitian and nutrition communications consultant in Dallas, Texas, and the moderator for today's webinar. Enhancing Diversity in the Dietetics Profession, Stories from RDRDNs with Disabilities. And this is the second part of our three-part series. I do want to say that we apparently did not have the captioner sign on. There were several changes in captioner over this week, and we don't seem to see this person on here, nor has the link been posted, but we will try to have them do the captions so that if that is something that anyone needs, that they will be on the recorded version, which you will receive in the email with the links to all of the other CEU forms, the PDF of the slides, and the transcript if we get them captioned. A little bit about myself. I've served as a leader in the Academy for many years at the district, affiliate, and national level, and as a member of the Academy's Diversity Committee from 1994 to 1996, I helped create the first diversity philosophy statement for our organization. I also served as mentor for Dr. Baxter for her capstone project for the Diversity Leaders Program, which is a program of the Academy to identify leaders in different underrepresented groups, and they promote learning more about the Academy and also having a capstone project that relates to their particular area of diversity. She was a speaker on our first webinar, and she's also the project director for the webinar series and the grant that we received to put these on. Before we begin, I want to briefly share with you, as a dietitian without a disability, how I became an advocate for dietitians with disabilities. It all began about 4 years ago in February of 2016 when a young Academy member named Tracy Williams emailed me after hearing me speak on a DBC DPG webinar about starting my own business. She had completed her bachelor's in dietetics but had been unable to match with an internship and wanted to know if I had any advice for her. She believed that part of the reason was due to her disability. So we had a call the following week, and in my efforts to help her forge a career in nutrition without an RD credential, I connected her with several colleagues to help her with the various speaking and writing that she was doing. One of these included Susie Baxter, who I mentioned previously, in December of that year. And I've known Susie since we were both young dietitians in Dallas. And I remember that she had developed a disability late in her career, about 10 years ago. So with Susie on board and her background in research and grant writing, we were really able to accelerate our efforts, and we've been running ever since. We've had several successes, with the latest being this series of webinars that's funded by an Academy Diversity Mini grant that was awarded to the Research DPG, our host of the webinars, with Dr. Baxter as the project director. And today is the second in the series of 3 webinars. The purpose of today's webinar is to learn from Academy RDRDN members with disabilities as they share their stories and answer questions. We have 3 learning objectives: state an ethical takeaway point concerning beneficence and RDRDNs with disabilities, describe 2 benefits that RDRDNs with disabilities can uniquely provide to the profession, and 3, explain 2 ways RDRDNs without disabilities can interact and work more effectively with RDRDNs with disabilities. Here is an outline of what will be included in our webinar today. We will review the Academy's Diversity and Inclusion Statement. I will provide some statistics for the United States and the Academy related to diversity. We'll look at the Code of Ethics and how it relates to disability issue. And then we'll hear from our 3 speakers and their stories. And then we'll view a public service announcement called I Can. And then we'll have the opportunity for y'all to ask questions, and as Dr. Azred said, please put those in the chat box as anytime during the webinar that you think of one. Now, for those of you who were on webinar 1, this will be a repeat. We're including this basic general information at the beginning of each webinar in case someone is only listening to one of them. This is the Academy's Diversity and Inclusion Statement. The Academy encourages diversity and inclusion by striving to recognize, respect, and include differences in ability, age, creed, culture, ethnicity, gender identity, political affiliation, race, religion, sexual orientation, size, and socioeconomic characteristics in the nutrition and dietetics profession. And that is the one in 94 to 96 when I was on the diversity committee that we came up with that. And I actually was the person that crafted the original, statement with all those different words in it, although several have been added over the years. But I did put ability in at the very beginning, but some of the others have been added along the way. These are some statistics on gender and race and ethnicity for the U.S. population from the 2018 American Community Survey. We also have for RDs and RDNs using the February 2020 CDR data, and for nutrition and dietetic students and interns using the ASCEND, or Accreditation Council for Education in Nutrition and Dietetics reports for 1998 and 2018, the earliest and latest years that they're available. The only area where current RDs are similar to U.S. statistics is for white individuals, with men and all other races, ethnicities underrepresented. Note that between 98 and 2018, the percentage of white students and interns decreased by 10%, and for black individuals by 2%, but increased by 2% for both men and Asians, and by 8 points for Hispanics and Latinos. So diversity for gender and race ethnicity is improving somewhat for students and interns. And in the CDR column, note that 11% and 14% respectively did not report gender and race ethnicity. So on your online CDR profile page, please make sure to indicate your gender and your race ethnicity so our current diversity information can be more accurate. So now we're going to look at the legal definition of disability. It's a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a record of such an impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. According to the University of New Hampshire's Institute on Disability among civilian non-institutionalized population in the United States in 2017, the disability rate was 13.2%, or almost 43 million people. Disability rates were similar by gender at just under 13%, and disability rates were by race and ethnicity were highest for African Americans at around 14% and Caucasians at 14%, non-Hispanic others at 12.5%, and lowest for Hispanics at 8.9% and Asians at 7%. By type, disability rates in the United States were greater for ambulatory at 4.9% and cognitive at 4.5%, followed by independent living at 3.7%, and least for hearing at 2%, vision at 2%, and self-care at 1.8%. For the first time ever, and I would like to say this is through the Herculean efforts of Dr. Susie Baxter, the Academy's 2019 Compensation and Benefits Survey of the Dietetics profession included disability questions. Of the 37,440 dietetics practitioners sent the survey, a total of 8,765 usable responses were received, a response rate of 23%. The survey sample was stratified by registration type, RDN or an NDTR, membership status, either member or non-member, and availability of an email address. Results are weighted to accurately reflect true population proportions. Of the 16% that responded they were currently not working in the field of dietetics, 3% cited disability or health problems as the reason. In response to the disability and health questions, 1% are blind, deaf, or have a severe vision or hearing impairment. 1% have a condition that substantially limits one or more basic physical abilities. And due to a physical, mental, or emotional condition lasting 6 months or more, 2% have had difficulty learning, remembering, or concentrating. And 1% have had difficulty working at a job or business. The latest revision of the Code of Ethics for the Academy and CDR went into effect on June 1st of 2018. The Code of Ethics has 4 principles: non-malfeasance, autonomy, beneficence, and justice. Under each of these 4 principles are numerous standards, and by accepting membership in the Academy or accepting and maintaining CDR credentials, all nutrition and dietetics professionals agree to abide by this code. Our learning objective for ethics for this webinar is to state an ethical takeaway point concerning beneficence and RDRDNs with disabilities. The code's 3rd principle is professionalism, or beneficence. The definition of beneficence is taking positive steps to benefit others, which include balancing benefit and risk. This slide shows the code's 9 standards for nutrition and dietetics practitioners for the beneficence principle on a variety of topics. Of these standards, B is perhaps the best ethical takeaway point concerning beneficence and RDRDNs with disabilities, and that is respect the values, rights, knowledge, and skills of colleagues and other professionals. As you listen to our speakers today, please keep this in mind and how the standard applies to the practice of dietetics. We ask our speakers to cover several points in their stories, including how they acquired their disability, why they chose nutrition and dietetics as a profession, their current professional position and any accommodations they use for it, their greatest success as an RD, what dietitians with disabilities can uniquely provide to the profession, ways RDs with and without disabilities can effectively work together, and how the Academy has helped them in their career. So now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ryan Branson, who most recently served as the Director of Nutrition Services for Shoreline Center for Eating Disorders Treatment in Long Beach, California. Ryan received his bachelor's degree in nutritional science and nutrition and fitness from the University of Missouri. He then earned a master's in eating disorders and clinical nutrition from University College London in the United Kingdom and a MS in nutrition from the University of Illinois, Chicago. I originally met Ryan a couple of years ago when he started following me on Twitter. In his Twitter bio, he wrote, "Eating disorders registered dietitian, eating disorder activist, actor, writer. I have cerebral palsy, but I don't let it limit my dreams." I messaged him through Twitter immediately, told him about the work we were doing, and asked if he would like to join us, and he enthusiastically agreed. So thanks for being here today and sharing your story, Ryan. I'm turning it over to you. So unmute.
Thank you, Neva. Thank you. So as Neva said, we had met through Twitter, and I was very, very happy that she had reached out to me. And I was super, super excited to be asked to participate in this great webinar. So a little bit more about myself. So I was born 3 months premature, and due to this, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 3. And as you may or may not know, cerebral palsy is a neurological condition, but it affects everyone differently. For me specifically, it affects my walking and my balance, and because of this, I typically use a walker. Depending on the distance, sometimes I will use a mobility scooter as well, but that is much less frequent. Most of the time, I will use the walker, which you can kind of see in the picture. In regards to working in the field of nutrition and dietetics, it kind of came about because I've always had a deep interest in nutrition, but at the same time, I've also had a deep interest in helping other people and making a difference in people's lives. In addition to this, I've also been specializing in getting education in the treatment of eating disorders. As you may or may not know, working in the field of eating disorders can be very challenging at times, just because of some of the unique kind of barriers and challenges that can come up in working with this population. However, for me, being able to assist these clients in improving their relationship with food and, of course, helping them move forwards in full recovery in this very, very challenging illness, that for me makes all the challenging moments totally worth it. And it's definitely very rewarding work, despite it being kind of challenging at times. And for me, I view challenging times as an RD and just in life as really essential opportunities to be used just for continuing to learn and to continue to grow, both as a person, but also in regards to my professional development and growth as well. And I also did want to mention, so in my most recent position, as Neva said, as the Director of Nutrition Services and RD at Shoreline, I really did not use any accommodations in my workplace other than having an office location that was in a good proximity to some other areas and rooms that I use quite frequently during my job. But I do have to say, at Shoreline and other kind of past work experiences I've had, including my dietetic internships, Everyone has always been super, super accommodating and super nice about everything. So I can say I really, really appreciate it. And I've really met a lot of super nice and compassionate people in the dietetics field. And I think that is just really, really great. A little bit more about me. I am relatively a new dietitian. I've been a dietitian now for a little over a year or so. But I think one of my proudest moments that I've had so far is a couple of things. So one that Neva mentioned, in 2004, I moved to London, England, to get my master's degree in eating disorders and clinical nutrition from University College London. I had been kind of wanting to do this degree program for many years prior to 2014. This was when I went. It was a relatively new degree program. It was the second year that it's been going on, and to this day, it is the only degree program of its kind anywhere in the world. But I really wanted to pursue this because I knew for a really long time that I wanted to work in the field of eating disorders to really help people and make a difference. So I wanted to do this experience to help me reach that goal and to also make myself, marketable as well. But I will say one thing that I guess I'm proud of is that I took the step to move, all the way from the U.S. to the U.K. And it was scary because one, I had the disability, which, does make things harder at times. And I was also away from my friends and family, which I had never been that far apart from my friends and family before. So it definitely was kind of a daunting kind of experience, but I definitely wanted to do it for myself, and I knew I could. So I did, and it ended up being a great, great experience. And then the other thing that I'm really proud of is my most recent job at Shoreline. So I was living in Chicago, and I got this job opportunity, and I decided to move across country to pursue this opportunity that I've been working really hard for. And again, it was kind of scary, but I knew I could do it, and I wanted to do it. And like Neva said, I really don't let my disability impact what I do or my dreams, because I really believe in what I can do. And I want to kind of let everyone else out there know, too, that just because you have a disability, it doesn't have to impact your dreams or what you can do. Being an Academy member has definitely benefited my career in that I've been able to use the excellent resources that is provided as being an Academy member, and this has allowed me to provide some of the highest quality of care and support that I can to my clients, which of course is something I work towards every single day, giving the best care.
Taking a break, Fred.
And I also think that RDs with disabilities, they definitely can bring some great things to the dietetics profession, including proof that, like I said before, a disability, it does not have to define you, and it does not have to define your goals in life, whether that's professional or not. They can still come true. If you put the work in, your disability does not have to be the thing that has to hinder what can come of it. And I really think, at the end of the day, whether we have a disability or not, all RDRDNs have a common goal, to help our clients live the happiest and healthiest lives that they can. And I really think, since we all have that common goal, that is something that we can continue to build on together in forming our relationships with one another, because we can learn so much from each other. We all have our own experiences in life. We all have our own specialties within our profession. So we can just learn so much from each other. And going off of that, to end here, really, when you think about it, the field of nutrition, it is really relatively a young science in itself. And because of that, we are always learning new things. Think of all the research studies that come out all the time that we use in kind of revising and crafting kind of our interventions that we use with our clients. So we're always learning new things. And because of this, it is just so important that we as dietitians continue to collaborate with one another and share our knowledge and share our strategies that have worked for us or maybe have not worked so well for us. Because really collaborating, working together for the best of our clients, that is really important. And whether you're an RDN with a disability or not, we can all play a very important and active role in continuing to help our clients and continuing to grow the profession of nutrition and dietetics. And I really want us all to just remember that when maybe things get tough, that we remember the passion and the drive that kind of drove us to pursue the profession of nutrition and dietetics in the first place. Because, helping people, I know that's why I got into the field, to really to play an active, helpful role in people's lives when maybe they're having a really rough time. And I get a lot of, benefit out of that, and just being able to be there for people, and even just being a listening ear to people, and just offering that hope that they can, work together with me and with everyone else to, live the best life that they can, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all working for. So that is my story. And as Neva had said at the end, if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing your amazing story. We really appreciate it. And also, thank you for persevering through some people being unmuted. I had gotten several messages, and I was sending a message to Maria to mute everybody because there was someone eating very loudly. So please be sure you're muted. But thank you, Ryan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Neva. Mm-hmm.
All right, next we have Jackie Henderson. Just a sec. I'm sorry, y'all. I lost my screen on my. It'll just be a second here. I'm sorry. I'm using an iPad for my script, and it. I touched the wrong thing and it disappeared. Okay, got it. There's always glitches, and I've got to get to where I was to introduce Jackie. All right, Jackie is our second speaker. Jackie received her bachelor's degree in dietetics from Fontbonne University in St. Louis, Missouri. She went on to complete her dietetic internship at the VA Medical Center in St. Louis, where she works as a spinal cord injury dietitian. Jackie was referred to me this past year by one of last week's webinar speakers, Liz Dunn, and she was also excited to join our efforts when I contacted her. So I'm very happy that we have you here with us today, Jackie, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Neva. I'm happy to share my story today, and hopefully it'll be helpful with everyone else's story. That was great listening to your last story told too. So for me, at the age of 15, near kind of the peak of my teenage rebellion, I was involved in a car accident that completely severed my spine. And the official diagnosis was a T11 Asia A spinal cord injury. And most people are surprised to learn the accident was not of any poor decision making that usually comes at this stage of life, but was just an ordinary and unfortunate car accident. It truly was a troubling time while I was already grappling with self image issues and trying to gain independence away from my parents. I was all of a sudden trapped in a body that didn't move from the waist down. And I was 100% dependent on my parents again, which was tragedy for that age. So life goes on, as they say, and thankfully so. I really just stumbled on this dietetics career. I was just barely an average high school student, and my only interest was art. So really without having any other aspirations, I went with a fine arts major at a local community college right after high school. It didn't take me long to kind of start questioning that decision and how I was going to make a living creating mediocre art. But in any case, I was, in the process of completing my general education requirements and ended up taking a biology class that introduced the topic of genetic engineering of food. That's kind of what stirred my interest in both food and the sciences. After that, I was hooked once I found the field. And I sincerely tell you that it was by God's grace I did so well in college. I taken classes and courses that were far beyond my repertoire. And really the only class I ended up being average at, or maybe barely passing, was organic chemistry. And well, hopefully some of you can relate. That was just because it was organic chemistry. So we fast forward to my current life as a single 41-year-old mother. I might be the elder of the group today, so I'm not telling you all of those years of stories in between. But my current disability affects me in very different ways now than it did in the beginning. Over the years, I've seen myself experience different stages of relating to my disability. The view I have of myself has very much impacted my relationships and how others view me throughout the years, and that's changed throughout the years. And then there are the physical impacts of my disability that have changed through the years as well. Things that I considered a challenge then are not now, and really vice versa. But in general, I still use a manual chair for all of my mobility. I have full use of my upper body, and it is used a lot. And certainly this has presented challenges, and I'm starting to progress into a stage of overuse issues with my upper body. And that, of course, is because the arms were never meant to do the work that your legs are meant to do, especially for so many years. And I'm sure from the other presenters in similar situations we will hear last week, today, and then next session too, there's some common struggles such as fatigue, needing to stretch, and needing a physical space at home and work to move around in. And then there are other challenges that may be less obvious to a common bystander, and that of time and money. The one of time is one that I find myself cringing a little bit when I hear people say things like, we all have 24 hours in a day. And that's true, we do, but it can, it's not always an untrue statement, but no one person's 24 hours are truly equal. There are a lot of mundane activities that eat up your time when you have a disability, things such as elevator rides, restroom breaks, getting dressed, showering, cooking, loading and unloading into your transportation, if you have different devices you need to use to get around with. The cost of living with a disability has been well documented, so I don't feel I need to elaborate on that one. Just to say that most chairs cost as much as your car or SUV, with a varying portion of coverage from insurance. And I think it's important to address and highlight these challenges, not for pity and not just even for understanding, but just to kind of showcase the resulting benefits. Challenges or barriers really do offer a breeding ground to master those areas and also has the ability to be transferable to other areas of our life. And these examples that I gave, which I'm sure there's others I could, you learn how to assign value to all the potential tasks in the day. You recognize what is essential for yourself and better prioritize your time and your finances, all while really learning how to accept the uncontrollable factors at play. I think this is one area that I can highlight where RDRDNs with disabilities can uniquely provide to the field of dietetics. As our world and as people's lives grow more complex, it takes a discerning eye to sort through it all and guide that focus for an individual trying to achieve certain health goals. It's also an overcoming spirit that is bound to come through as a witness with your clients. And when you do have a disability that's as obvious as mine, that you can physically see as soon as you meet me, it's more often unspoken, but even if it is spoken of to your clients, when you place yourself in a slightly more vulnerable and revealing light, it has the potential to create great rapport and deeper relationship. I have found this to be true throughout my career. And I started my professional career, Neva mentioned I did my internship at the VA Medical Center, and I truly just never left. I actually left for a month and was happy that I got hired back on. It really would, there's no place I'd rather be. But I actually started in the mental health unit at the VA Medical Center in St. Louis, and then it was followed by a long stint in outpatient nutrition counseling. And it was during this time that I started to consider transferring to what my now position is as a spinal cord injury dietitian. And I got to tell you, I was so hesitant to join the spinal cord injury team because obviously that, is what I have, and you think it would be a natural fit. However, my concern was that I wanted to be recognized as the dietitian and not just the token spinal cord injured employee. It's almost too obvious for me. So the funny thing is that this concern I had was just proved to be not valid at all. Once I got there, I spent really less time explaining my injury to clients, and there was this unspoken mutual understanding about what I had been through and how I have to live my life. This versus my time in outpatient nutrition counseling, where a lot of times when I introduce myself to a veteran, who most veterans are not shy about asking questions, they immediately want to know everything about me. And if anyone in outpatient nutrition counseling knows that, you have time limits, so there's only so much I am able to share, even though I'm happy to share it. So this became not a concern whatsoever when I entered into spinal cord injury. And I truly believe that regardless of what the disability is, having our coworkers or clients exposed to a certain physical limitation does strengthen that relationship, and it lowers one's defenses. And I found that come to fruition in my relationships with the veterans that I get to take care of now. I really have not had to have any major accommodations to be able to focus in my current or past roles. I mean, luckily that clinical hospital work is conducive to being able to get around in a wheelchair. But there have been issues that needed addressing to make a more universal, accessible environment. And yes, even in an entire ward serving spinal cord injured patients, these details can sometimes get neglected. So things such as having personal protective equipment that is within reach and access to waste containers that do not require a foot to open them. So far, in this dietetics career, there might be things that are escaping me, but I'm probably most proud and feel most fulfilled from our cooking groups that we get to do with veterans. These groups taught alongside an occupational therapist teach healthy eating and adaptive ways of cooking. And that's really been fulfilling and fun for me to do and share that personal experience with them combined with my dietetics knowledge. I've been an Academy member for the majority of my career, and the resources always proved to be worthwhile. It's provided me with a network and a backbone for the evidence-based dialogue we need throughout our careers. I've also had the privilege of serving in a leadership role with our local chapter, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity today to share my experience with the Academy, Academy members, and potential Academy members. I hope it's enriching alongside some of the other stories we'll get to hear. And really, just one final takeaway, besides any questions anybody might have later, is that I really would like to end with that no two disabilities are alike. I found that to be true when I became a spinal cord injury dietitian, that how varied and how different, we each are, even though there's this one similarity in having physical limitations. So exposure to the diverse world of disabilities in a presentation like this is truly essential to having a true understanding of this topic, and really appreciative of you, Neva, of coordinating this and bringing light to it. And that's all I have for now.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story. Our final speaker is Anna Sweeney, a certified eating disorders registered dietitian who is the owner of Whole Life Nutrition in Concord, Massachusetts, a thriving private practice specializing in eating disorders. Anna earned her BS in Food Science and Nutrition and completed her MS in Dietetic internship, all at Simmons College in Boston. I met Anna virtually through my friend Jessica Setnick, who is a well-known eating disorders dietitian in Dallas. When I told Jessica about the work I was doing, she immediately connected me with Anna, whom she had met through eating disorder dietitian organizations. So thank you so much for being here today, Anna, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Neva. I'm so delighted to be here with you guys today. And thank you for the introduction. My name is Anna. I am a certified eating disorder registered dietitian, an eating disorder and body image expert, and a full-time disabled dietitian. I have lived with multiple sclerosis for the last 20-something years. I was actually diagnosed when I was 15. My initial plan coming out of high school was to be a sports broadcaster. I like sports, and I wanted to be, one of those people on the football field, interacting with players at the conclusion of games, but I stopped being able to wear heels, and I changed colleges. I ended up coming back home because I was sick, and I came home to see a sister who was living in a very different body, and this is kind of what got me interested in the field that I am practicing in now. I entered college and graduated college in 2.5 years, all the while saying that I wanted to, quote, do this work before I, again, quote, couldn't do this work. Not ever really believing, because as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, I was in a totally physically capable, able body. I never really anticipated that disability would become a part of my life. But I am superbly grateful that I expedited my education as much as I did, because it has given me the privilege of working in a field that I am deeply passionate about for the last 13 plus years. I chose to work in the profession of nutrition and dietetics really with the sole intention of working as an eating disorder dietitian. This decision was made as a result of my sister developing an eating disorder. I came into the field to tell her that people get better. And I have been in the field for, again, nearly 13 years, and I'm really proud to say that after treating, and this is a crazy number, thousands of people, that recovery happens. And I am really happy to say that it has also happened for my sister. I have worked at all levels of eating disorder care and currently own and operate a private practice dedicated to the treatment of humans with disordered eating, eating disorders, body image distress, and those who are working towards food and body freedom. my experience in this field has given me in an able body, actually gave me the opportunity to start my career in an interdisciplinary setting. So I've worked in multiple eating disorder programs and have served as the director of nutrition services at several eating disorder programs as well. My ultimate decision to step down, and I suppose the last job that I had before being an exclusively private practice dietitian, was working for a national eating disorder organization. We have treatment facilities all over the country. And I made the decision to step down from that position because most of the sites were in fact inaccessible. And so I fortunately had a private practice the entire time that I was working in eating disorder programs. So I made the decision to move entirely into private practice, where I am now happy to say that I'm happy, sad to say that I have a full practice, and based on the nature of eating disorders, I am sad to say I think I will always have a full practice. Thinking about kind of how my disease affects my body, most commonly, the thing that most directly affects me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read off a script and it's not the way that I talk. This is mostly about my ability to walk and my ability to balance. So I use a walker for everyday everythings. I would use a wheelchair if I'm going long distances, and I have the privilege of access to electrostimulation devices that I use on my legs. And as was just said, disability is quite costly, and I have great appreciation for the privilege that I have been given to allow me to live in the way that I do. I have ramp access to my office, and again, I use my walker to navigate the space. I'm really fortunate to have a landlord who's willing to accommodate my needs as they change. And I'm particularly fortunate to have started my career as an eating disorder dietitian as an able-bodied human. As such, I was able to be provided a number of opportunities to work with clients and colleagues at all levels of eating disorder care, as I've already said. I'm proud of the work that I have done as an eating disorder dietitian, and surprisingly feel in some ways most proud of, this is funny, the Instagram community that I have created honoring the concepts of health at every size, body respect, intuitive eating, and all things eating disorder recovery. I have spoken freely about my experience of living as a disabled person, which has allowed me to connect to a much larger audience. I am learning as I go, most certainly, but feel really proud of the work that is happening there on Instagram and is allowing me to speak. I've spoken in national audiences about eating disorders, and I am grateful that because of the work that I have done in this field, my disability is secondary to the work that I've done. In my case, the gift of disability has really been about my ability to speak to and hold body image stories with a completely new awareness, thinking about the nature of the work that I do. I think it's really valuable with for dietitians with disabilities to demonstrate that we are more than our body. I also think it's important for us to challenge the paradigm of what a dietitian, quote, looks like. Being an Academy member has allowed me to be part of DPGs that mean a lot to me. I've been connected to research that supports the work that I do. I felt empowered by community and challenged to continue to work in ways that best support my growth as a professional and the care of my clients. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Anna. We really enjoyed learning more about your journey and your career. Now we have a short captioned public service announcement titled Working Works that was created by the Campaign for Disability Employment, which is a collaborative effort among several disability and business organizations working to change attitudes about disability and employment.
I work.
I work.
I work. And I want to keep working.
I work for the challenge.
Because people are counting on me to provide for my family.
And I'm employed today because we work together.
Work together.
Work together. When my life changed in an instant.
When I got hurt.
Needed support.
We made a plan.
So I could come back strong.
So I could stay in the game.
Because we couldn't succeed without it. It wasn't a matter of if I could go back to work.
It was a matter of when and how.
Because working works.
Working works.
It lets me earn a living.
Be there for the team. Together, we made a plan to keep me on the field for 2,632 games in a row.
To keep me working.
America works best when all Americans can work. Ensuring workers can stay on the job or return to work following an injury or illness is essential to America's economy. To learn more, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Okay, I can't move the slide. Maria, can you click to the next slide? There. Okay, for more information about becoming a member of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, if you aren't, you can email membership@eatright.org. Next slide. The recording of today's webinar will be available on the Academy's website along with the CEU certificate, PDF of the slides, and a transcript of the entire presentation. You will receive an email with the links as soon as we can possibly get it out, as Dr. Azra explained earlier. Note that there are two certificates. The certificate without code 175 is for the live webinar, but if it does have code 175, that is if you listen to the recorded webinar. And so now we have just a couple of minutes for questions, and I did see one question here from Anne, and she said, I am wondering if disabilities other than mobility issues limit success in the profession, such as blind, deaf, and most especially mental disabilities. As an internship director, it is very challenging to support interns with those kinds of issues. Are there any suggestions or resources? Would anybody like to tackle that question? If so, unmute yourself and talk.
Well, I think this is Jackie.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have really a solution or an answer, but I think one resource that you should have in your back pocket would be to reach out to your local Center for Independent Living. There is sort of a network of these centers that I think could really be utilized in helping the individual for their unique needs and figuring out how they can be better supported during the internship or their career. I've worked with our local Center for Independent Living, which is Paraquad in St. Louis here, but there are others too across the nation.
Thanks, Jackie. That's a great suggestion. You know, that is the only question I saw. I had some questions myself, but because we're coming up towards the end of the hour, if I don't see any, oh, and someone asked if Part 1 certificate had been sent, and I believe this is...
Hi, Susie.
I can answer that question.
Oh, Susie Baxter is going to answer that question as well.
We have an article
yes
coming out.
I was going to mention that, Susie, in the next slide.
Okay.
Because there's a little feedback from you now. But I will try to provide the contact information, if it's okay with the speakers, so that you may contact them individually if you have additional questions. And I will put together a document that can be downloaded at the site where you can get the slides and the CEU certificates. But to be respectful of everyone's time, I wanted to just thank you all for attending, and I wanted to say that if you are a dietitian with a disability who would like to join our group, please contact me through my website at NevaCochranRD.com. NevaCochranRD.com. And also I wanted to mention that an article authored by Dr. Susie Baxter, Barbara Gordon, who's the research dietetic practitioner Group Chair, and me, titled Enhancing Diversity and the Role of Individuals with Disabilities in the Dietetics Profession, will be published in the May Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And there will be additional information that I think will answer some of your questions in there. So be on the lookout for that in the May issue. And finally, I'd like to invite you to join our third and final webinar in the series Thursday, April 23rd at 1 p.m. Central Time, and it will feature 2 speakers from the Job Accommodations Network with tips for hiring RDRDNs with disabilities. And I'd like to again thank our speakers, Ryan, Jackie, and Anna, and for all of you who were participating today, thanks again and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Neva.
Oh, someone wanted me to repeat my email. That was my website where you can contact me through the website, and it's nevacochranrd.com.
Okay. Thanks so much, everyone.